Welcome to today's lesson. My name is Maina, a teacher of mathematics of many years. In our lesson today, we would like to look at how the formula for solving quadratic equations can be derived. Then we are going to use the formula in solving a quadratic equation. So consider the equation, the general quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. This is the general quadratic equation where a, b, and c are real constants. Now we are going to follow the steps that we learned of completing the square. And you remember the first thing we did was to move this constant to the other side, and remembering the change in sign. So the next step will be ax squared plus bx equal to negative c. The next thing was to divide throughout by the coefficient of x squared. So we are going to do exactly that. We divide by a on both sides, and let's see what we get. The next thing is to complete the square. And you remember we're adding a dash on the left hand side and another dash on the right hand side. So we do exactly that and see what happens. We were getting the value to put in the dash by getting a half of the coefficient of the middle term, and the coefficient of the middle term is b over a in this case. We get a half of that and square. So in the dash here, we can have a half of this, which makes it b over 2a, and we square that. And on this side, we add the same. And now the square is complete. On the left hand side, we can ask ourselves what was squared to get this. And you remember we're getting the square root here, and we're also getting the square root here. And that gives us x plus b over 2a squared, and that is equal to minus c over a plus b over 2a whole squared. What remains now is to simplify our expression so that we are able to remain with x only. So we can move to the other side so that we have x plus b over 2a equal to, remember we are going to now get the square root of this one, so that we are left with x plus b over 2a, which is there. And on the other side, we also get the square root, and we need to remember that the square root has both plus and minus. And we will move this value now to that point so that we have x plus b over 2a equal to plus or minus the square root of what is on the right hand side. Now we need the LCM here. And we need also to move b over 2a to that side so that we remain with x. And that gives us minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of, now the LCM will be 4a squared, and then when we divide this we'll get minus 4ac plus b squared. Looking at this part, we see the lower part is also a perfect square, which means we can remove the square root sign under this division sign, so that we get the final formula as x equal to minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And because now the 2a is common here, we can write the formula over 2a, all of it. And that gives us x equals to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All this over 2a. And there we have the quadratic formula, the formula that we use to solve quadratic equations. And so we now need to look at an example. And here is the example. Solve for x in x squared plus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. We would like to solve that one using the formula. We need now to compare this quadratic equation with the general quadratic equation. And you realize that the coefficient of x squared is 1. Therefore, our a will be 1. The coefficient of x is 5. So the b in our case is 5. And the c is 6. All we need to do is substitute these values in the formula and use a calculator to work out the final values for x. And this therefore gives us x is equal to minus b, that's minus 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's 5 squared, that's 25, minus 4 times a is 1, so times 1, c, our c is 6, and therefore times 6, all these divided by 2 times 1. We can simplify this further. The values in this question are very straightforward. We may not even need the calculator. So that we have minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 24 is 1 over 2. Therefore, x will be minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 1, which is 1, divided by 2. Therefore, it's minus 5 plus 1 over 2, or minus 5 minus 1 over 2. And when we simplify this, we get that x is equal to this minus 2 or minus 3. With that, we come to the end of our lesson today. Remember to subscribe so that we can continue together in the next lesson.